They sold my mom's house without her knowing. Yeah, you heard that right. The HOA foreclosed on her fully paid off condo over a few missed payments she didn't even realize she owed. And get this, she only found out when a stranger showed up at her door claiming he owned the place now. This story is wild, and it only gets crazier from there. Have you ever had to deal with an HOA pulling shady moves like that? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear it. And if you're into real-life battles like this, hit that like and subscribe. Let's dive in. This happened last year, right outside Phoenix, Arizona. My mom, her name's Diane, she's 69, lives alone, and she's always been one of those people who refuse to ask for help. Proud, organized, sharp, or at least, she used to be. She's been living in this little two-bedroom condo for over 15 years. Bought it outright after my dad passed. No mortgage, no debt, just her, a quiet neighborhood, and a small HOA fee every quarter. It was supposed to be her peaceful retirement. Now, I'd helped her set up autopay on most of her bills just to make things easier. But she insisted on handling the HOA payments herself. Said the amount changed sometimes and she liked staying on top of it. At first, it seemed fine. But after the HOA switched management companies, the billing notices started showing up in weird formats. Different envelopes, different names. Honestly, even I would have tossed some of them in the trash thinking they were junk. The problem was, she did toss them. Or more accurately, she never opened them. I found a stack of unopened HOA letters in a drawer later, all marked final notice or urgent. But we didn't know that yet. One Sunday morning, I got a call from her, and she was crying. Not like a few tears, but full-on sobbing. She kept saying, "They're taking my house. Someone says they bought it." I don't understand. I jumped in the car and drove across town. 45 minutes. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch holding a piece of paper, hands shaking. On the table was a business card from some guy who claimed he now owned the condo. According to the paperwork, the house had been sold at an HOA foreclosure auction 3 weeks earlier. Sold. Gone. Over just $5,800 in unpaid dues, and my mom had no idea it was happening. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know yet how deep it really went. I sat down with that paperwork and felt my stomach drop. It was all there: the deed transfer, auction certificate, a new title in someone else's name. This wasn't some scam. It was real. The HOA had foreclosed on my mom's home, a home she owned outright, and sold it for a fraction of what it was worth. $78,000 for a property easily valued over $200,000. And all of it? Over $5,800 in unpaid dues. Now, here's the part that made my blood boil. I went through her payment records. Turns out she had missed some payments. But the real kicker? Almost half that $5,800 was bogus. Late fees, legal costs, processing charges, things that weren't even outlined in the HOA bylaws. Worse yet, she never got proper notice. Yeah, they sent letters, but most were in envelopes that didn't even say HOA on the outside. Some were labeled Important Community Update. Tell me you wouldn't throw that in the trash. And those certified letters? A neighbor signed for them when my mom wasn't home. So legally, she never actually received them. I called the HOA and demanded answers. All I got was, "We followed standard procedure." Really? Standard procedure is selling a retiree's home without calling her, without notifying family? They still had my dad listed as the emergency contact, and he passed away 10 years ago. That's when I hired Rachel, a real estate attorney who also specialized in elder law. And thank God for her. She wasn't just good, she was ruthless. First, she filed for an emergency restraining order to delay the eviction. Then she started pulling records, going line by line through every fee, every notice, every supposed attempt at communication. And what she found? A pattern. Not just with my mom, but other elderly homeowners in the same community. People with memory issues, living alone, receiving the same vague notices, being foreclosed on and bought out at auction for dirt-cheap prices. By the same group of buyers. It was coordinated, or at the very least, aggressively opportunistic. And one of the buyers just happened to be the cousin of an HOA board member. That's when Rachel said, "We're not just fighting this, Zah, we're going public." So we took it to the press. Local news ran a segment on it. HOA foreclosure targets elderly widow. And it blew up. Emails started pouring into the HOA's inbox. Neighbors were furious. Some had no idea this was even legal. Others were afraid they'd be next. A week later, we got a call from the HOA's attorney. Suddenly, they were very eager to settle the matter amicably. Yeah, I bet. We made our demands clear. The foreclosure had to be voided. My mom's title reinstated. All junk fees removed. And a formal commitment from the HOA to change its procedures, including mandatory checks for cognitive decline and emergency contact verification. It was either that, or we'd see them in court. And on the evening news. Again, they folded, fast. The buyer got his money back from the HOA's insurance. My mom paid just the real overdue amount, about $2,700, and not a penny more. The foreclosure was nullified. But the damage, that fear in her voice when she called me, I'll never forget it. This wasn't just paperwork. This was her home, and they nearly stole it because of a system built to punish the vulnerable. I knew we had won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like something that should have never happened in the first place. So yeah. In the end, we got the house back. The court voided the foreclosure, my mom's title was fully reinstated, and that so-called buyer walked away with a refund, courtesy of the HOA's insurance. And believe me, that part stung them. Mom only had to pay the actual overdue dues, which turned out to be around $2,700, not the inflated $5,800 they tried to scare her with. The HOA dropped all the late fees, collection costs, and those sketchy legal charges they tacked on. They also had to implement new rules for handling cases involving elderly or at-risk homeowners, including requiring valid, up-to-date emergency contact info. You know, basic stuff that should have been in place from the beginning. She's still living in her condo, by the way. We've set up every bill on autopay, I check her accounts regularly, and she's now got power of attorney paperwork in place, just in case. But even now, I think about how close we came to losing everything. That call from her, the panic in her voice, it still hits me. And it all started with a couple of unopened envelopes. So if you've got elderly parents or anyone you love who lives alone, please keep an eye on this stuff. It only takes one missed letter for things to go off the rails. And now I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know ever had a nightmare run-in with an HOA? Did they pull something shady like this? Let me know in the comments. I read everything. And if this story fired you up, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more real stories like this one. And don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Stay sharp, take care of your people, and I'll see you in the next one.